What's up? Welcome back. This is your host SK. This is gonna be a short YouTube video. I was gonna say short podcast. The different formats get confusing sometimes, but it's gonna be a short YouTube video. Um, I'm only making the video because I just did a video with Makalesi about the flat Earth theory, and I didn't say anything in the video. And for the most part, Makalesi doesn't believe the Earth is flat. And she's more neutral on it than I am. I would say that she's more neutral. So she doesn't believe the earth is flat, but she's willing to listen to people who think it is and give them the dialogue to be able to express why. And I think that's fine. But I had to come and see my email box filled with people who are concerned that I believe the earth is flat. And to those people, I would say I do not believe the earth is flat. I'm definitely not a flat earther. I'm not even neutral on the topic. But that's not my channel, right? So I have to. So if I'm a guest on someone's channel and they're neutral, what could I say? But for me, I am not neutral on it. The Earth, because to me, it comes down to this: whether you believe the Earth is flat or whether you believe the Earth is round, right? I have the stance like African spirituality is always at the center of what I do, and in the old days in African spiritual systems, right? Like give you a good example: the concept of aliens. Um, African masters of the past knew aliens existed, but they were not obsessed with aliens like the younger races who never experienced so-called aliens were, right? So for the Africans, they were like, okay, yeah, there's life forms that exist outside Earth, but it wasn't really a big thing. It wasn't really a big thing. They didn't really impact your everyday life, so it wasn't really brought up. And in a sense, even when it comes to the creation story, you go to some of the tribes in voodoo, and they'll tell you like, hey, the earth was created many times, but we don't, but you're not gonna see an elaborate, fancy voodoo or a few other African spiritual systems creation story, because if the world was created over and over and over again, you know how the world was created the first time wasn't as relevant to your present experience, because you're basically a spiritual being having a physical experience, right? So in their minds, really getting crazy with the creation story was counterproductive. Buddha had the same mindset, and Buddha mindset, that's one of the reasons why he broke off from Hinduism. Yeah, people talk about the caste system, but a lot of things he was just saying in the old Hindu systems which he was born in, they were arguing about things that were not relevant to the current spiritual experience, and it could become a distraction. So Buddha, when you ask Buddha, "Oh, was the world created? How many times were it created? How old the world was created?" He'd be like, "Listen, the world was created many times. Don't worry about it." Right? That's how he used to have it. That's the mindset he used to have, and I think, in a sense, that's the mindset that the people should have as well. You know, I don't agree with flat Earth people, but I would say this: one thing that some of them say is that, oh, some of them get into time and space is not real, and why worry about space? And I wouldn't say why worry about space. I'm scientifically minded. I would say space is still important. A lot of atoms that we have that really come from other stars, right? I mean, in a sense, life on Earth wouldn't be the way life is unless certain stars that are far away. Sometimes stars that are not even, have nothing to do like with your visible sight. If they weren't there, life on Earth would be different. So I wouldn't say space is irrelevant, but I would say space is somewhat overrated. And in a sense, there's a lot of things in the physical that are in your immediate environment that are probably more important. So my question to flat earthers would be, why is there so much energy in this topic? That's the thing. There's a lot of energy in this topic, and I don't really understand the energy that's being put to the topic. I mean, I've seen flat earthers say this is the most important discovery ever. Why? I can name 10 things more important than that. I'm not gonna lie to you, I can name 10 things more important than that. I'm not gonna make a video on the 10 things I was tempted to, but I don't think this topic deserves more than one video. In fact, I wouldn't even do a video on this. The only reason why I am doing it because I see that if I'm neutral, I'm not even neutral. I didn't say anything in the video. But if you perceive me as being neutral, you're gonna try to lump me in the flat Earth camp, and I don't want that at all because I am not a flat earther. Do I look down on flat Earth people who believe the Earth is flat? No, I don't look down on people. I don't look down on people who believe the Earth is flat, because I do think the reason why this whole thing has gained the momentum that it has was because science is made purposely hard to understand. It's not taught the way it's supposed to be taught. You even have scientists who say when they look at the science and the way science is taught in the curriculums in school, it's almost purposely taught in a way where unless you're just a person who just likes that type of stuff, you're not going to be into it. Because I guess in a sense you could say the way science is taught, the average person who doesn't, because scientists have a curiosity to them. Somebody who likes science has a curiosity to them that regular people don't have. So even if you teach it, even if you make it boring, right, or you make it, because I don't really think it's boring. It's the way it's taught. You don't know how or why you should be learning it, and why did this impact your everyday life. Most people don't know how stars affect life on Earth, right? So when you studying astronomy, they're gonna be like, why do I care? You get people that who do the all who say it all the time, because when science is taught, it's not taught in a way where it's basically shown how it relates to everyday life. So for people who are not as curious, they're gonna be like, I don't care about science, right? And so because of that now, because people don't care about science, when people are making the flat Earth arguments, if you notice, a lot of it is not scientific. In fact, most flat earthers will say science is bought out, NASA is whatever, it's part of the conspiracy. I mean, I don't know if they paid attention. NASA gets almost no respect. Like when you look at when they break down the budget, no one cares about NASA. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like NASA is not a power player. Sorry to break it to you, it's not. Right? But the difference is that the way science is taught is not taught correct, and because people don't really have a fifth or sixth grade understanding of science, that theory is going to resonate with them. And in fact, it should resonate with them, because I think scientists and the academic community have to be called out for the way they conduct themselves. Because in the end of the day, if you are the person who's the smart one, if you're the person who is the enlightened one, you're supposed to be able to give light to the masses. That's how it's always been. The leaders are supposed to, you judge a good leader by how they treat their followers and how their followers progress. When we look at some countries, the reason why people loved America, because America had a banging middle class. You look at other countries had rich and poor. America had a middle class. And when people looked at it outside of America, they say, damn, Americans, the leaders know what they're doing, right? Even if that's true or not, that's how they looked at it. So for people who are more scientific minded, you can't really bash the flat earthers, because the flat earthers are just products of people who they don't, science was boring in school. They never really took up the science. So now they're trying to use common sense. Like in their mind, they're trying to use what they perceive as common sense to validate scientific arguments. And though that doesn't work, I see why that's done. The average person is going to do that. The only problem in that is that the average person doesn't realize, honestly, even when you say, oh, it's about what I experience, half the stuff you experience is not even real the way you experience it anyway. And it's funny, because the people who are talking about flat earthers tend to be spiritual, not all the time, but for the most part. If you get 10 flat earthers, 7 of them tend to supposedly like metaphysics. Problem with that is that, so when you say, oh, it's about what I experience, half the stuff you experience with your eyes is not even the way you really perceive it to be. The sky is not blue. When you see all these different races, scientifically, there's only one race. Again, I'm not talking about culturally and socially. No, culturally, socially, historically, obviously there's not one. Obviously, there's not one race. I think people don't know how to separate culture, socialism versus science. And science is one race. In terms of how we evolved as a human species, no, there's about 8 or 9 races. Yeah, of course. But your eyes would tell you it's 8 or 9 races. Reality is one. So would I argue with a person who says there's more than one race? No, I wouldn't argue that, because they're talking about socially. They're talking about culturally. And I think that's the biggest problem. When a flat earther says, oh, I believe in the flat earth theory because they're using CGI images, I don't think people understand. The world has known the earth has been around for a long time. It had nothing to do with the pictures that you see. It had nothing to do with the pictures that NASA produced. The people knew all you had to be was a sailor, and people knew the world was round for a long time. Even when people said Columbus thought the world was flat, myself included, I didn't know that until recently. Columbus never thought the world was flat. That was a myth. So realistically, and then because sometimes then you would say, well, the ancients said the world was flat. The problem is all the ancients that people are saying thought the world was flat, the Babylonians, Mesopotamian general, Sumerians, Egyptians, those people never traveled. It's nice to hold up the ancients to a high pedestal, but even Egypt, most people don't realize the Phoenicians are the ones who push Egyptian culture outside of Egypt. Phoenicians were sailors. They're the ones who push Egyptian culture outside of Egypt. The Moors travel more than anyone. They came to America before Columbus did. They knew the Earth was round a long time ago. They didn't need a picture to know that. So that's the. But then again, when you're dealing with what you perceive as to be common sense, you will say stuff like that because you say, "Well, it's about this picture." Had nothing to do with that picture. That picture was really made for people who want to know how the Earth how the Earth looked. That was for people who were not scientists, not travelers. It was for those people. That picture that you're seeing, and yeah, for whatever reason, there's a lot of CGI stuff in that picture. But that's the problem with conspiracy. Conspiracy often is real, but it's like if you have 10 conspiracies, 3 might be real. The other 7 might not be real, but there's a reason why the other 7 were formed. So if you say, well, the pictures are CGI, even if that's true, it may not be because the Earth is flat. It may be because of something else. Like that's what I'm telling people. Like I'm not anti-conspiracy. If somebody was to come and tell me we never been to the moon, I say I can see that. I can see that. There's people like John D who knew a long time ago. Hey, wait a minute. This seems to be kind of a shield or quarantine on Earth. You can't get off Earth. If you're a carbon-based life form, you ain't going anywhere. You might be able to shoot a satellite outside Earth, but a carbon-based life form ain't going anywhere. This is some kind of shield or some kind of invisible spectrum outside, just outside the planet that stops you from leaving it. Okay, that's conspiracy. For some people, they think that's crazy. That's actually probably more true than the flat Earth theory. But if there is some kind of shield holding things, or the Earth, if you look at it visually, you see certain things that they may not want you to know. I can see it being CGI altered, but that doesn't mean the Earth is flat. That's a different conspiracy. And again, because people are not scientifically minded, somebody would say, well, it's a different conspiracy, so it's a conspiracy, so we're still right. Life doesn't work like that. In science, science is about exact math. You know what I mean? Like if you say 5 is 5, you can't say, well, 6 is close to 5. No, 6 is a completely different number. So if you're gonna put all your energy in a conspiracy, make sure it's worth putting your energy in. And I like the way the old medicine men, the Bushmen, Buddha would say, if they were asked this question, you could tell. They'll be like, well, how's it affecting your everyday life? You need to. There's like I said, there's 10 or 15 other topics you should care about. You should put as much energy into as you put energy into this. The fact that you don't is concerning, right? And again, I do still hold the academic community responsible, because at the end of the day, you can tell it's from their lack of teaching people science that we're at this point where where the flat Earth is becoming its own movement. When somebody told me, the flat earthers go at the New Age community, I'm like, wow, okay. And they go at each other. I'm like, that's strange, because the New Age community, I can see why the New Age community is its own community. They believe aliens exist, whatever, aliens created civilization, it's a philosophy. It's a philosophy that covers more than one subject. You're going to get into aliens, you might get into free energy, you might get into spirituality, you know what I mean? You might get into genealogy of your own lineage. Some people believe the aliens. Okay, I can see the New Age community. I don't agree with it. Anyone looking at this channel knows, I'm not a New Ager by any means, but it's a philosophy that, at least it's a philosophy that ranges past one subject. But when you're just saying the flat Earth, I'm like, why is that a movement? That doesn't range past one subject. The only way you could say that ranges past one subject is you got some flat earthers who know to prove that theory, you got to say gravity don't exist. You got to say a whole bunch of things don't exist, right? So it goes into other things because, you realize that, oh, this is bumping into other scientific so-called facts. But even then, it doesn't warrant it to be a movement. If it's a movement, at this point, then you should say it's a distraction. And if it's a distraction, you should say, well, did someone design this distraction? You're into conspiracy. At the end of the day, is the flat earth really helping you evolve? Like, if you're into spirituality, is it helping your spiritual growth? Obviously, it's not helping your economic growth. If you're into money and finances, obviously it doesn't help that, right? So we don't even have to go into the physical part of it. If you're, it doesn't do anything politically, doesn't do anything socially at all, right? But if you're so called into spirituality, how is it helping your spiritual growth? If the answer is not, then you should really evaluate how much energy you put into that concept and that theory. So, it's SK. I know this is not going to be a popular video, but it is. I had to do it because I do not want people thinking I'm a flat earther, because I'm not. So, Until next time, peace.